Thank you for joining us for 5 simple ways to make your photos stand out. Are you ready to learn the easiest tips that competitive photographers use to make their spectacular images? We're going to start with the most important one, focus. You only need one thing in focus in the picture, your subject. Imagine seeing the world with someone else's glasses on. A little frustrating, isn't it? You don't want your picture to be even a little bit frustrating to your viewer. No matter how beautiful your picture is, if it's not in focus, it's not the best that it could be. How to do that? If you're shooting with a camera, as you compose your image, press the shutter button halfway down, check the screen, and make sure what you want to be in focus really is. If you're using a camera phone, touch the screen where your subject is. Don't settle. Don't take a picture until you know that it's perfectly sharp. In our example images, you can see our spectacular model Taylor. But something's missing if she's not in focus. Do you see the section to the left of her head? That's the area that's in focus. How much better it is in our next example where she's back in focus. Another example of this is as she's standing. This great picture is basically ruined because the area to the right of her is in focus. Second tip, contrast. Another way to say that is where the light meets the shadow. Light makes everything pretty, especially sparkling sunlight. A word of caution though, don't let your shadows get too dark or your highlights get too bright or blown out because then you'll lose detail. How to do it? When you've selected your subject, take a little walk around. Move all the way around your subject until you see the perfect angle where the sunlight is hitting your subject. And then reposition your subject to take the best advantage of that sunlight. In our example images, you'll see how in this picture of Taylor on the stairs, the light and shadow adds interest and actually focuses our attention on our subject. In our picture of our model Caleb outside, that beautiful sunlight just draws the viewer's eye into the scene so they feel like they're walking along with him on that path. Our third tip is about eyes. If your subject has eyes, whether it's a human or an animal, one super easy tip is to make those big and attention-getting. How do you do that? Position them so they're not squinting into the light. Maybe zoom in close so that the eyes are a bigger part of the frame. And remember, we talked about focus. If there's eyes in your picture, more than anything else, it's important for them to be in focus. In our example image, take a look at how Taylor's eyes are like jewels set in this image. Now our fourth tip is kind of a bonus. Do you have a shiny surface in your scene? Maybe water or glass? How about a window? Can you move your camera into position so that there's something pretty reflecting in that surface? If you can pull this off, you'll have a picture within a picture. That makes your image so much more interesting. In our example image, Caleb is standing in front of a window that actually reflected out onto the parking lot. So I had to physically move until all you could see in that window are trees, which illustrates that you also want to notice a shiny surface. Even if you're not adding something beautiful into there, make sure it's not reflecting something that you don't want seen in your image. In our example image with Taylor, she sat inside the car, and we played around with reflections on the windshield until we found something that we both loved. Our fifth tip, best one of all, simple. Remember, the best pictures, they're the simplest ones. How do you do that? Cut out messy backgrounds. Even if that physically means that you squat down or maybe you get high above your subject, you zoom up close, whether with the camera or with your feet. That way, whatever you want to be the focus of attention is obvious to everyone. In our example image, you'll see this high angle above Taylor also incorporates the shadows that we talked about and how important focus is, which in the next image, as Caleb is playing the guitar, focus and keeping it simple is the key to the power of this image. So, can you remember our 5 tips? Number 1, focus on your subject. Number 2, look for the contrast in the scene where the shadow meets the light. Number 3, make sure eyes are sharp and they're the center of attention. Number 4, reflections add a nice bonus to your picture. And number 5, keep it simple. Remember, if you have fun taking the picture, your viewer will have fun looking at it.